Hello everyone, happy Independence Day. This is a presentation about the relationship between science and the Swadeshi movement. So let's get right into it. So many people might be thinking that the Swadeshi movement might have not contributed to science, but actually it did. It provided a lot of impetus to science, and it had two it had two objectives, that is the promotion of education along nationalism and under national control with exact reference to science and technology. And it also wanted the country to be industrialized, and the uh, and whatever was there in the country, the material was there in the country, it wanted that to be advanced. So, in 1904, the Association for the Advancement of Scientific and Industrial Education of Indians was formed to send qualified students to Europe, America, and Japan for studying science and science-based industries. So, this was founded by Mahendralal Sarkar in 1986, as you can see over here. Mahendralal Sarkar in 1876, and it was called the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Sciences way back then. So Mahendralal Sarkar he said to the British government that I want a very specific institution. I want an institution which will combine the character, the scope, and the objects of the Royal Institute of London, which was a very esteemed institute in the history of science, and the British Association for the Advancement of Science, because the British were undergoing the Industrial Revolution at that time, and he wanted freedom for this institution, and it wanted to be entirely under Indian management and control, and he wanted it to be only native and purely national. So there are several people who benefited from this institution. The most renowned names I have put in this video, that is J.C. Bose, who was a plant physiologist, and he was the first one basically to do interdisciplinary research. Then there was Prafulla Chandra Ray, or as we more commonly know, P.C. Ray, who was a chemist. And then, as we all know, C.V. Raman, who was from Bangalore, and he was a Nobel laureate, and he was a physicist. And there was then K.S. Krishnan from Kerala, and his mentor was C.V. Raman. Then there was Meghnad Saha. Meghnad Saha was an astrophysicist like our Dr. Kalam. And then there was S.N. Bose. He contributed to the Bose-Einstein equation, which became a very famous thing in all parts of the world. Then there was D.N. Wadia, who was a geologist. Birbal Sahani, who studied the relationship between botany and paleology and the study of rocks, that is paleology. And then there was P.C. Mahalanovis, who was a statistician. He worked in the field of statistics. And then there is S.S. Bhatnagar, who was a chemist. And many of them also set up institutes, which I will talk about right away. And one of them is called the Bose Institute, which was set up by the same Bose that we talked about. And then there's the National Institute of Design, which is a very reputed college in all of India. And those were set up by all the designers and the design engineers who worked over there. Then of course, Birbal Sahani Institute of Paleobotany, and then the Indian Academy of Sciences, which was set up by C.V. Raman, who and is still located in Bangalore. It was founded in 1934. These institutes were the Bose Institute, which was set up in 1917. And as I showed it to you, it was the first picture that you saw. So it was probably the first, it was really the first institute that was set up. It was set up by J.C. Bose. Then the National Institute of Science, which was set up in 1934, and in the same year, C.V. Raman set up the Indian Academy of Science, though in a later month. Then there was Sheila Dhar. Now, Sheila Dhar's husband was a mentor to Miss to Miss to the first female Prime Minister of India, who was Indira Gandhi. So it is very so it was one of so on her accession through to the Prime Ministership of India, she was she gave a very memorable speech, and that was um, uh, that was probably not written by him, but he was one of Indira Gandhi's chief advisors as well. So Sheila Dhar was a singer, and she was also a writer. And once her husband passed away, it was named after Sheila Dhar. So Sheila Dhar Institute of Soil Science, and then the Birbal Sahni Institute of Paleobotany was set up in 1946. That is why you saw that picture earlier. And all of these institutes, along with the Swadeshi movement, India got independence um, in before uh, the Sheila Dhar Institute was set up. So it was they got independence right after the Birbal Sahni Institute was set up. So yeah, it was really all these institutes really gave impetus to the scientific activity of India, and these candidates also faced serious problems like Jagdish Chandra Bose. Jagdish Chandra Bose was the first amongst the 20th century scientists to do research between disciplines. We historians call it interdisciplinary research. Now, he was refused any research facility by the college authorities, and these college authorities considered his work as purely private. He had to fight against the government administration, but he persisted and he won. So we all know what is the result of that. And uh, he studied the relationships between both living and non-living creatures. So he studied the relationships between plants. That is what we call, that is what school students called biology, and but in advanced stages we call it botany. And if any of you are interested to take that up, that is really an a great achievement for the government. And then after that, he also studies the relationship between them. That is what is called physicist. So that is why he is called a plant physicist. All right. Now, J.C. Bose. Now you can't see this image clearly, but once I minimize it, you will be able to see it clearly. So now Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, what he did was, so all of you understood what plant physiology is, and chemistry is, and physics is, and astrophysicists are, and paleology and botany are two um, um, two subjects that cannot be ignored. Like for example, if you want to study the relationships between if there are any material under the rocks and those are hidden within like plants or something, you would probably credit it to Birbal Sahni, because the Swadeshi movement gave real impetus to that. And unless you study physics, you cannot contribute to the Bose-Einstein equation. This is why I'm coming back to this slide. And chemistry was studied by S.S. Bhatnagar. And P.C. Mahalanobis, he gave real impetus to Dr. Nehru, and the Nehru Mahalanobis plan was something that was really appreciated in the second year plan. And yeah, so all these institutes gave real impetus to students, and students are still studying there. So this is it in itself. This is in itself a real design piece. So yeah, we discussed all of these institutes, which were the Indian Academy of Science and the National Institute of Science. And yeah, we talked about J.C. Bose, and there were several other people who fought against the government, like P.C. Ray. He one of these scientists, I think it is P.C. Ray. That's why I'm mentioning his name. He came from England a with uh, a doctorate in that is Prafulla Chandra Ray. He came from with a doctorate in chemistry, and all he had to settle for was a professorship, that too in the field of uh, and that too in the field of um, provincial service, that is the substandard service. So all of these people, they had to face different challenges, and they fought against the administration of the government. So unless and until it was for the scientific Swadeshi movement, you wouldn't have been able to um, uh, see all these people. So since science and the Swadeshi movement are really popular today, I thought that I would talk about this topic. So now, Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, you can't see it, but there is Ashutosh block, there's Ashutosh College over here, and then there is centenary celebration. So Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee, he took advantage of the University Act of 1904. So this University Act said that you can set up institutes in any part of the uh, in any part of the college and in any part of India, the Indian subcontinent, and that included Pakistan as well as of today's time. Since Pakistan is celebrating one day before us, and we are celebrating it today, so I hope you will find this very relevant. And he established a University College of Science in Calcutta. So it is relevant today, yes. So even today, the Swadeshi science movement exists all over India. So not many people know about this, but there is a Swadeshi science movement of India, and it has uh, not yet received any awards from the government. But there are not many, but that's probably because there are not many people who know about this NGO. All right. So um, so that's why it's still relevant today, because it's pushing students to go forward, and it's still relevant to the nation, and it still is under the aegis of the government. So yeah, so government probably knows about it, but it's probably covered under the government agenda, and it's probably covered under even the state's agenda. So, since science is such a popular subject, it's still relevant today. And Swadeshi movement was a movement which aimed to provide economic impetus to the uh, to the Indians and not the British. So the Swadeshi movement was founded. No, that is a non-cooperation movement. Sorry. So I think it was found I think uh, the non-cooperation movement happened uh, at the end of the non-cooperation movement. The Chaudi Chara incidents took place. So the Swadeshi movement, they decided, boycott all the foreign goods and buy only khadi. So so that's what happened. So the entire time they they said buy khadi, boycott foreign goods. The boycott movement and the Swadeshi movement were interlinked with each other, and They both came together really. So yeah, that is why it's still relevant today. And the Swadeshi science movement um, of India or of India is um, an NGO that is a not for profit organization, and that's why it's still relevant today. So yeah, I hope you found this. Uh, I hope you found this useful. And since we all know C.V. Raman, we all know Prafulla Chandra Ray, and of course J.C. Bose is one of those uh, trinity. And S.S. Bhatnagar is not very known, so I thought I'll make his presentation later. So that's what happened. That's why he got a further impetus with the Swadeshi movement. So he was a student and he was a qualified student. So he decided to go to Europe to study. So that's about it. And I hope you found this video useful. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you had a great time watching it.